Welcome to McGuire on Wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
Let's give the people what they want. Professional wrestling.
With Mike McGuire.
The happiest Canadian camper in the world. Tell me when I'm telling lies. Give me a hell yeah.
Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here this week. The show is on the road all over the place, all across Alberta, really. It's been remarkable to hear from so many people, to see people joining the Team MOW Facebook page, getting in on conversations, being a part of the show by offering conversation starters. And trust me, I take it all into consideration when we put together this week's episode. But this week, a special treat for you. The first time we're going to hear from him since we heard about the harrowing story that Harry Bulldog Smith, Davey Boy Smith Jr. went through in appendicitis, in diverticulitis, diverticulosis. You're going to get all the details. In fact, you're going to get some things that will clear up some rumors about stories that went out about Harry's condition. You're going to hear it directly from the man himself. No speculation when it comes to that sort of thing here. Also on the show, the man himself, Dave Meltzer, going to be joining us to pick apart some of the stories in the week in wrestling. And yesterday, I joined them on their show. They're coming back in to join me on this show today. Mitch Hodges and Dimitri Karolis, our super fans who host the Alternate Commentary Table, the other podcast that's absolutely for free on this feed. We're going to pick apart some things here coming up after the last week of wrestling as well, get some of their thoughts. And I had the chance to sit on their show yesterday, and it was a lot of fun. A ton of fun hanging out with those guys. They really are friends, and they also really are friends of mine as well. But it's just great to have like-minded people who, we don't take this stuff too seriously, but we take it serious enough that you stick around and join us. And thank you to everybody that's been sharing the word too, sharing episodes, telling their friends about it. And some big things are on the way here. I keep telling you guys, guys, I work for a living too, right? So this is all for fun. It's all for sport. That's why you're never going to be charged for this show, but you're still going to get a show that I hope you would feel you would want to pay money for this. You'd be like, hey, I'd buy those guys a beer. I'd buy those guys a coffee, whatever. And if that's what you would do, cool. Maybe buy one of our t-shirts at McGuireShow.com. New shirts are coming this week. One I am not thrilled about at all, because the boys have somehow figured out how to get to the print shop, and they've drafted something up. And if you listened to the show yesterday, and I'm sure they'll talk about it today, they have a shirt they want to put out. So anyway, there's lots to see, lots still to come. And now that things are getting a little more streamlined for me, it means I have more chance to delve into this show and give you as much as possible just for being here. Just for being, again, I'm never going to ask you to subscribe to this show financially. There's never going to be a paywall for it. I said last week, when The Undertaker is putting up a paywall for his show, his new podcast, all right, and trust me, I'm not saying that I would deserve to anyways, but when The Undertaker's the guy that's saying, send me $5, send me $10, I can't be that guy. I can't. I just can't. He doesn't say it that way either. But anyway, let's get down to business here with a big show this week. Coming up, Bryan Danielson is hurt again. Is this the end of the line for the American Dragon in AEW? Vince McMahon and The Undertaker show up in Saudi Arabia and have some interesting things to say. We're a week away from Crown Jewel. Can LA Knight get the job done and dethrone the head of the table? Plus, Harry Bulldog Smith sat down with me backstage after a surprise appearance at this past Friday's Dungeon Wrestling show. A new champion was crowned there as well. And Mitch and Dimitri are going to be joining me for a roundtable talking about some of the things you brought up this week on the Team MOW Facebook page. But first, let's take a look at some of the big stories this past week.
You want to hear the breaking news?
Earlier this week, Bryan Danielson was announced to have suffered a broken orbital bone following the tag match he was involved in over Wednesday's Dynamite. Now, there's no firm details yet as to what's going to happen other than surgery is required to help set the bone, and there's no firm timeline yet as to when Danielson will be done. But we'll try and get an update with Dave Meltzer coming up in just a bit. After a surprise appearance on this past Wednesday's AEW Dynamite, there's speculation now as to whether or not the Nature Boy will be a part of the AEW roster moving forward? And if so, for how long? We've discussed it a bit here on our shows. What do you think? Should Ric Flair be a constant force in AEW moving forward? Leave your feedbacks in the comments on this episode or head to the Team MOW McGuire on Wrestling Facebook page and leave your thoughts there. Vince McMahon and The Undertaker appeared at the Francis Ngannou Tyson Fury fight this past weekend in Saudi Arabia. The fight is done, and while there's enough controversy around that, at one point, Vince McMahon was approached by a bit of a cheeky reporter asking questions about a reported rivalry between him and UFC president Dana White. Now, for the longest time, White and McMahon have been publicly praising each other, but other times they've told stories about when things weren't so well. McMahon kept his comments short, which were probably smart, but still, it begs the question, how close are they working together moving forward? Despite having some big star matches, AEW's viewership was down to the lowest point of 2023 this week for Dynamite. Now, the numbers for Collision last night obviously won't be available till at least tomorrow, but that did have the impromptu world title match between MJF and Kenny Omega with just 3 days notice. AEW doing what they can to try and keep their numbers up ratings-wise and also sell tickets to shows which are still slumping, including an upcoming date in Montreal. We'll keep you posted as to how things look to improve over the next few weeks. And this past Friday in Dungeon Wrestling, my home promotion in Calgary, Alberta, the masterpiece, Chris Adonis, Chris Masters, is your new Stu Hart Heritage Heavyweight Champion, taking over from the now general manager of WWE Friday Night SmackDown, Nick Aldis. Now, Nick had to step away from the title, but word is Aldis may not be done when it comes to independent dates just yet. Nothing official, nothing confirmed, but we'll keep you posted as days get closer to that.
You got to stream the alternate commentary table. Every single Saturday, it's brought to you on the McGuire on Wrestling feed. I'm one half of your host, Dimitri Karolis, and I'm here with my partner, Mitch Hondras. Mitch, what is the alternate commentary table?
It's simple. It's the perspective of wrestling from the other side of the railing, the real fans.
That's right, the perspective that you need. You might have a little bit of fun, too. The alternate commentary table. Subscribe free now to the McGuire on Wrestling podcast feed wherever you get your podcast.
Treasure!
It's time for the Wrestling Observer Insider with Dave Meltzer, McGuire on Wrestling.
Well, no matter where we are, we'll bring you a show. I'm on the road coming to you from my friend's place in Sherwood Park, Alberta, halfway between where I live and Calgary, Alberta, coming back from Dungeon Wrestling, and always happy to make time for Dave Meltzer, who joins us. How are you, sir?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm a little run ragged. I'm not going to lie. We're doing about 100 things a day here today, but fresh off of another weekend with the Heart, so feeling rejuvenated there. You and I were just talking about Harry Smith. In this show, we're going to hear from Harry and find out directly from him. But you know Harry, he's a determined cat, and we were first hearing some things that made us think he was going to be out for 6-7 months, and well, let's just say his timeline is a lot shorter than what's out there right now. So we'll get the details coming up in just a bit. But
he had the surgery. That's what concerned me.
Well, he ended up having 2 surgeries, really, in the long and the short of it here.
The appendix and the diverticulitis.
Yeah. So, but let's just say the numbers are a little different here, but I'm going to let Harry explain that because honestly, we did the interview on Friday night and I don't remember the exacts right this moment. So I'd rather let Harry give the specifics coming up here in just a few minutes. But Dave, here we are looking at the week in wrestling. I think we got to start with some of the most recent stuff here, first of all, and that's even in the last 24 hours here. Last night's AEW Collision. The match happened. Great match. Lots of crazy stuff happening in it between MJF and Kenny Omega.
Oh, yeah. Absolute match. Yeah.
But why was this so quick? Why did this come out of nowhere, essentially, and just become a thing on Collision?
This is my gut. My gut is that, again, like you don't think about these things in everyday life as far as oh, he's about to break Kenny Omega's record. Right. And I'd say about 2 weeks ago, somebody kind of noted to me, it's he's about to break Kenny Omega's record. And I wrote it, and they may have heard it around the same time because there was nothing building to it. Right. And then, right away, whether it was from me or whether it was someone else there figured it out, I don't really know because I haven't directly talked to anyone, but I did write about it. Mm-hmm. And, this was the last show before, You know what I mean? It was like time was running out. This was it. You know, as far as the story, you know, when Gedo did it, and this is basically a takeoff on what Gedo did when Okada was about to break a record. Wasn't for the longest reign, but it was for the most title defenses in Iranian history, which Tanahashi held. Right. And so they had planned this, you know, they had actually planned this probably 6 months out, but it was one of those things where, okay, the last one's going to be with Tanahashi. And I thought that was great booking. And at this point, you know, it's the same thing. It's like, I guess they could have done it Wednesday, but it'd been even more rushed. And they had other things that they also had planned for Wednesday. So this was it. And they did the match. And I know Omega and Max were both very, very happy with the match, as they should be. It was a great, great match. Of course, should it have had more build? Yes. My qualm more was, I thought that they should have left an open finish, but they wanted to do a clean finish. And, you know, it's like, okay, now I'm going to complain about them doing a clean finish. I thought they should have left an open finish and then replayed it on a pay-per-view. But the reality is that, you know, you can see Tony is knee deep between Hobbs, Wardlow, Jay White, and Samoa Joe in directions for Max.
Right.
So, and by that point, you can rebuild Kenny, and you can do more promos, and you can do a pay-per-view if you're going to get there. And maybe it's not even going to be there. Maybe Adam Cole is going to come back when he's ready and win the title, or who knows. You know, I mean, there's a million different things you can do, and maybe they just were never going to, you know, maybe they had such a long-term plan to where, you know, MJF and Kenny was never going to happen, and we're just going to happen. We're going to do it on this show, so we should be happy we got it, I guess. My thought was just like, this is a pay-per-view main event, and it's a dream match, and I wish it had a month of, you know, promos and everything like that to build it. But the reality is that the November 18th came after the deadline, and Jay White was the guy, and, you know, it's what they did. You know?
That's the thing, too, though. I mean, you have the thing going on with Jay White, where Jay White has the belt. I mean, it just felt very reactionary, and I'm not going to get into the weeds of, well, we should be concerned about that from it. But for me, like you said, if this is a dream match, scenario, imagine how much better this would have been with 2 months of build. This could have been the AEW All In 2 main event in Wembley next year. Really, if you really want to look at it,
it's still good. It's still good, but I think for the timing of the breaking the record, this was the time. You know, they had to do the match, or they would just blow off that record. And I think that it made sense. It really did, from a booking standpoint and from a history standpoint. And if you're going to keep records, which they are, and it's sports, in that sense, the perfect booking is to have Kenny Omega go for the championship right before Max breaks the record. You know, so I mean, I totally get that. I mean, as far as doing the match on that day, I mean, I would have done that. I mean, yes, do I wish it had a month's build? But then you're taking away from the J build. J build is like, you know, I think, you know, look, if it was perfect, the pay-per-view would have been this weekend, and you would have had it, but that just wasn't in the cards.
Well, I think we're going to see this from different sides, and that's fine. I just feel that I would have almost rather they'd blown off the record then, because it's still a young company. There isn't like a mega long streak of any champion there that's that formidable. But I mean, it is what it is. It's been done now, and we move forward. We got a great match out of it. I'm not going to complain about a great match. And, you know, I mean, it's just, could it have been done different? I mean, to me, again, like the whole thing is like you can always do the match again, you know, and with the right build. I mean, it's not like this stuff is one and done. I mean, wrestling's built on rematches. So if you need to do it, and when you need to do it, if you've got 2 months, you know, you can do things. You know, you could have Kenny win a tournament. You could have. There's just a lot of ways you could get back to it. There's 100 ways to get there. It's
not like they did it once and they closed the door. You know, it's like one of the things with like Hogan Goldberg, which is the example that a lot of people will go back to. And to me, it was never the Hogan Goldberg match on television. It was that they never did the rematch on pay-per-view that was the issue.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they did on television was great, and it was a great moment. But and it would have been better on pay-per-view. Sure, they'd have made more money, but the reality is the rematch would have been the big money maker. And because Hogan wouldn't do the second job, they never did it. It never happened. There's only been one Hogan Goldberg match. And to me, that's the bad thing. You know, when people go like, oh, you complained about Hogan Goldberg, and it's like, it was never about the TV match. It was about the rematch. Not happening.
We'll cap it on this note here, and I'll just say that in my mind, it took me back to when Bryan Danielson, then as Daniel Bryan, got cleared to return after all these years, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to do Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles on SmackDown, like out of nowhere, right? Now, again, for us wrestling purist nerds that they look at it and be like, this would be the match of the century. And it just kind of happened. You know what I mean? So either way.
I mean, at least the match happened, you know? I mean, you got to remember with WWE, that wasn't in their minds that big of a match.
No.
And that's why, whereas in this one, this is a big match, you know, but again, it's like I wouldn't have done the finish the way they did it, but I also, you know, I mean, it's not the end of the world. If they ever want to go back to it, they can do it again. You know, I mean, and you know, Kenny's storyline is pretty much right now that he's losing all his big matches. So you know, do the redemption storyline. Him losing another match is fine, because the whole thing is buckle down, get back at Don Callis, whatever is going to happen. You know, eventually turn the things around, because at some point, if this guy, you know, if you're paying this guy this much, you can't continually beat him, but you can beat him a lot now and then turn the storyline around later too. I mean, he's a big enough star, you know, and everyone is for the most part.
I mean,
a loss isn't the death knell of anybody.
We could go into the storyline logic of Kenny losing so much but getting a championship job, but it doesn't matter. Let's move forward here. Going on to Bryan Danielson, as a matter of fact, news coming out, AEW releasing that he has a broken orbital bone. This is some serious stuff here, and it's an option that he could possibly work. I mean, there was a time Undertaker broke his orbital way back, and he wore that mask to protect his face and everything, but a bigger concern to me in this isn't just the injury and how long Danielson may be out, but this is what the third major injury that Danielson has had since coming to AEW now.
More than that, he had a concussion. And
then he had the leg thing
in that Anarchy in the Arena. He had what did he have? He had a concussion against or something with Max that kept him out. Then he had, I'm not even sure if it was a concussion, but it was an injury. Then he had the broken arm, and now he has this. So it's 4.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, when I heard broken orbital bone, I mean, my first reaction is like, oh my God, like, you know, it's like, is God telling him something? You know, and all these injuries, the reality is all these injuries are part of the reason why he is planning on, you know, I don't say retiring, but not wrestling much after a year from now. And then this may, you know, slow things down. And it's like, if it was the same body part, it'd be, you know, I'd go like, this is different body parts. It's like, again, like the arm was a fluke. This is a fluke. You know, the concussions, I don't want to say, because the concussions, you know, he has the history with that, and that's a scary aspect. No doubt about it. So, you know, and there was a lot of concern in the last concussion. I mean, I have talked to people and, you know, it was concerning, and all of these are concerning. You know, I mean, every injury that Bryan Danielson gets is concerning. But yeah, I was floored when I saw that on TV, just because it hadn't really been talked about or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so, and I don't even 100% know that it's like not storyline. I'm pretty sure I hope it's not. I know he had someone told me he had a black eye after the match on Wednesday. And if he did, well, that would tell me that it's probably real. And the way they said it, you know, I don't think that they make up, you know, I mean, it's wrestling. You can make up anything. When they said when they said broken orbital bone, I thought, oh, maybe it's an angle for Okada. But when they were ambiguous about it, and then they said he had surgery. As soon as they said surgery, I thought, okay, it's probably real. And then I've checked it around, and I don't have 100% confirmation of anything, but I do know people who think that it's probably real. So that's the best I can say right now. I think maybe by the end of the day, I'll know more. But well, I was floored last night when I heard it.
Well, and they're saying in the release that he could be out till the end of 2023. So, I mean, that sounds pretty real to me if they're going to keep him off TV that long in a time where they need a Bryan Danielson.
And he's very valuable right now. Yeah, and he was doing great with all those matches every week. And I was, it's
a lot. It's a lot.
It's really sad to me, you know, because again, you know, he's come back and he loves wrestling, and he, you know, Bryan Danielson always has great matches, you know, and just always has great matches. I mean, he's one of those few guys that, you know, and not just that. I mean, I just think, I think he's a great guy, you know, and I just imagine, you know, I mean, he's very, very dedicated to this profession. And so this, you know, him getting hurt hurts him a lot.
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan too. I don't know the guy at all. I'm hoping to meet him someday and just shake his hand and say, like, I dig your style, man, because he's always come at it in a way that, I mean, I think he portrays a good, nice guy image, but I also know that he's kind of the guy not to mess with too. And I mean that in the best possible way. Like, you can always be straight with a guy like him, and he always gives you a straight answer. So that's kind of neat there. Sticking with AEW here, just to wrap up the past week here, obviously, and what's been going on there. Sting has Ric Flair presented to him as a gift, which, again, I'm going to go ahead and say it was the weirdest way to introduce a human to another human. It's like, hey, we got you a gift. It's Ric Flair. Now, Flair comes out. They have that great moment. There's this meme going around of Sting and Flair back at the Bash and then at the last Nitro and now together again in Dynamite. Rick being Rick, you got to wonder what's going to happen here. Now, I don't think there's anybody in the world that wants to see Ric Flair wrestle again. I don't even know if Ric Flair wants to wrestle again. I'm taking that out of the discussion here.
I don't expect Ric Flair to wrestle again. Yeah. He
did say, though, in that promo that he wants to be along with Sting for the ride. Is there going to be more Ric Flair in AEW now moving forward?
I certainly have the impression that, and again, from talking to people there as well, that he will be making appearances. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be weekly. I don't know if it's going to be every now and then. I'm sure that when push comes to shove at Full Gear, or if they do a retirement ceremony after Full Gear and all that stuff, that Rick will be at the key events. I think Rick will be at key events. I mean, and
you mean for Revolution? For Revolution.
Oh yeah, Revolution next year. Revolution 2024.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be at Full Gear. Just the way that angle was set up with Christian and Luchasaurus and Darby Allin. I mean, I got the impression Rick would be in the corner on the big shows. Like that would be one of the key shows. So my impression is we'll be seeing a decent amount of Ric Flair on that station, with Sting. And, I mean, it's like, I want the Sting thing for them and for Sting to be as big as it can be. I thought that Noah last year, and it's the prototype of everything, I thought Noah did a fantastic job with the final day of Great Muta. I think it was one of the greatest things, of the last year in wrestling, or Keiji Muto, I should say. Great Muta too, though,
Yep.
And, so it's kind of like I would love to see, at the end, I didn't know that Rick was even going to be available, but, it was like the Ric Flairs and Nikita and, I mean, so many of them have passed away, but get a lot of those guys, Vader's not around, but if Mick Foley, and again, I don't know, a lot of them have WWE contracts that will not permit them being there. And it'd be cool if they could at least do videos and things like that. It's not like when they Sting thing, AEW didn't allow Bryan Danielson and Mark Henry and Jericho on to do those promos when WWE asked. I would love, I mean, I don't know that it will happen. It's a weird dynamic to do it. I mean, WWE asked for it. Will they reciprocate? My gut is probably not, but I would hope that maybe just for Sting's retirement that they will reciprocate some on the day of the show. Well, we'll see if they do or they don't. But Rick there, of all the guys, Rick is the guy who made Sting in the sense. Sting made Sting. Eddie Gilbert's not with us anymore. Eddie Gilbert, is a big part of the getting Sting ready for the Ric Flair match. And there's, and then you've got all the different people over the years that he interacted with. And I just want the Sting thing. I'd like to see the Sting thing be, a real nice, wonderful send off for the guy. Cause, look, he's, we're talking 30, almost a 40-year career, which is unbelievable because, I never would have expected, I thought Sting was done in 2001. I really did. So there you go.
I think everybody did. Then TNA happened. Then WWE kind of happened.
If it wasn't for TNA, my gut is he would have been done in 2001. Maybe would Bryce Yang have done the thing and got him on the video game? Yes, I believe he would. And so that would have opened the door to WWE when they finally accepted it. But who knows if after 15 years off, if Sting would at that point say, I want to wrestle now, and maybe he would. Goldberg came back after years, so a lot of guys have. So, there's a lot of what ifs, but the fact is he stuck around for this long. And, I just hope it goes, I hope everything builds really well, and he has the retirement that he deserves for all he's put in. And most people don't get it.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we'll put a cap on AEW for this week here. Moving over to the fight world, we don't often talk about things, maybe a little bit of MMA here, but there was a big fight that happened. Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou. That is in the books. Went down as a split decision. A lot of people are saying, well, Ngannou got a knockdown on Fury. Like, what's the story here? I mean, I am actually going to, it's like, I did not get the pay-per-view because I considered, going in, I considered it like a joke, and I'm done with that. Like, I'll watch, certain big boxing matches on pay-per-view. And really, I haven't really been doing even that much on with the boxing because when I was younger, I watched all the big boxing pay-per-views. But anyway, the thing is I wasn't going to watch this one. Okay. I think there was going to be something, which, again, I've seen enough MMA fighters trying to box, and I know what happens. And, it didn't happen in this fight. And I'll watch as far as the judging goes and everything like that. I mean, Fury's so much better of a boxer, but the reality is Ngannou does hit hard, and he clocked him. I never thought that he would be able to touch him. And, I know people who have, I believe me or not, I have not heard from a ton of people I've heard from a ton of people about it, but not people who bought it. And including my friends that are boxing fans, who I went right away. And so like, what happened? And it's, we didn't buy it. So I don't think, my gut is it may not have been a big pay-per-view, in the sense that people in boxing didn't really seem that interested in it because they thought they knew the result. And MMA people didn't really seem that into it because, it's like we've seen it with the Jake Paul fights, and then this Tyson Fury is like a million leagues above Jake Paul. And the MMA fighters don't even do that well, even though, Ngannou can hit super hard. Of course he can. Well, and that's the interesting point, too. And maybe we shift from that particular fight in general, because I remember having this conversation. It was with Joe Aguinaldo, who's still a part of the team here. And he was talking to me on the phone about it. And I told him kind of the same thing you tell him. A lot of these fights now, they don't feel important to me because they're not for any real contention. There's not, and the real contenders that are out there trying to be athletes and do it the proper way, they're not getting any recognition because all this celebrity goof off stuff is happening now.
Right. And it's sad in a sense if you're a boxing purist, what's happening with boxing, because it's also something that will, I've seen the celebrity boxing gimmick stuff, and I saw it in Japan with K1, and there's a time limit to it. It's like it does work at first, but it becomes diminishing returns. Whereas, you don't want to ruin the sport and turn the sport into a sideshow. And, this fight, I think, Fury probably came in with easy payday, and the Saudis wanted this giant thing, and they flew, and paid Mike Tyson and Couture and all those guys that were there, Duran, like everyone that they could come up with, they gave them all a payday. And the idea is, they're all out there, and it's promoting Saudi Arabia, just like WWE show next weekend is doing. And so I just saw it as, I didn't see it as being that serious, but, I don't know. And that's one of the reasons I want to watch it is to think, did Fury just not take it seriously and think he was going to blow by? Because by booking another fight in December, that told me he wasn't even taking it seriously. This is just an easy payday. And, when you get lax, things can happen, and you don't have the eye of the tiger and all that. It's, very much, like, again, people told me this was Rocky 1, where the champion's so much better, but he's just treating it as a joke. And all of a sudden the underdog, who should have no chance against him, is trained his ass off and decked him, And I think it's a giant sports story. In hindsight now, going in, it was just like, I didn't even
another gimmick. It was another gimmick.
I wrote a story about it a week ago, but I buried it deep in the Observer. It wasn't like lead story of the week by any means. No. The third or fourth, and now all of a sudden it's like, wow, we all underplayed based on what happened. This is, this was like the world champion in boxing. It's the world champion in MMA, and they had a real fight, and it was like, it wasn't a joke. It ended up being a real fight.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what shakes down from that. Okay, let's get to some more wrestling here. I had a couple questions come in from fans. We'll get to it quickly here. Andre wanted to know, with NWA getting the new TV deal with the CW, could this bode well for TNA getting an actual TV deal instead of being on a network that is already owned by their owners, like with Anthem?
If NWA goes in there and draws big ratings, yes, somebody else might go, hey, this product that nobody expected to do big ratings is doing competitive ratings in TV. Well, yes, it could help if it does big ratings. If it doesn't do big ratings, I don't think it helps at all.
Did you watch that pay-per-view, the NWA one?
No, I did not.
No, we had Masters up for Dungeon, or Chris Adonis up for Dungeon for the weekend, so I made a point to watch some of it, but it'll be interesting. I want to see what this NWA TV does. I don't want to poo-poo on it too much, but I don't know. I don't know how much TV ratings is going to have success-wise there. Another question here. This comes from Brian, wanting to know if PCO, I'd rather ask PCO this question. It was asking about PCO's contract negotiations, but he did re-sign with TNA, and he's back there now. So I guess that's the other question now, the whole TNA thing. We talked about it a bit last week here. Some people are all for it, some people against it. Again, the bigger key to success for them, is it just getting the brand reestablished, or is it getting eyes on the actual product? What needs to happen? Or is it both?
The name is not going to hurt.
Right.
I think the name, there may be some curiosity for like the first 2 months. So the name change may help slightly, but in the long run, by July of next year, the name change won't matter one way or the other. The product is what the key is. I know that they want to go after Ospreay, and that would be a great get right now. He's going to be a free agent in February, and then there's other guys. I mean, the key to them is picking up some guys, and it's hard because like it's very when number one is strong, and number one is really strong right now. Mm-hmm. It's hard to be number two. Now, when you're talking about number 3, 4, like it's even harder. So it's like even if they, I want to see them do good. And they are doing better. And I watched their pay-per-view, and I enjoyed the pay-per-view. It was a very, all the way. I loved the Hall of Fame ceremony. The Will Ospreay match was one of the best matches of the year. Josh Alexander and Alex Shelley was a fun match. The tag team title match was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. It was an easy show to watch. I was entertained. But, again, my feedback was low. The pay-per-view numbers speak for themselves. It's just like,
what were the numbers?
It was it's the TV estimate. I don't have the streaming number.
Okay, yeah.
The streaming number will be probably triple, and maybe quadruple of the TV number, but the TV number was 1,800. So it's for TNA. If they do 5,000, I consider it good, and they probably did do 5,000. So it's good for TNA, but it's 5,000. A good pay-per-view number is when AEW did 100,000, for let's say the last one, if that's the number, and this last one's, I've got a lot of mixed signals on that one. But if we go with 100,000 on the last one, I would say I was disappointed in that. So, but there's also a big gap. But it's just very, very, it's very hard to be there. The best thing they can do is just put on good shows, and Anthem. The value of them is and keep the ratings up. That's the key. Is
keep up a good fight.
If their ratings go down, will Anthem go, hey, look, it's just didn't work. But if they can get the ratings up, hopefully Anthem would be concerned. But not concerned and be happy with it. But because again, it is the number one show on Access, so that's the positive. It's for the station it's on. It does well.
Well, yeah, and to me, I'm like, okay, they're on their own network, and it's not as widely accessed, obviously, but at the same time, that's saving them a lot of extra production costs because it's all their own in-house. They're not having to barter a deal. Whatever they get from revenue, they get to keep, so that works. Okay, we're running quick on time here today, Dave. Thank you again, as always, here. Going back to that Tyson Fury fight for just a second here, not about the fight at all, but people that were there, Vince McMahon and The Undertaker appearing in some videos, doing a little bit of a scrum. One reporter choosing to have some fun and get down to the reported issues between Dana White and Vince McMahon in the past. They've both kind of taken respectful jabs at each other in the past. They've both been very nice to each other in the past. it was very awkward watching this because it was clear that this reporter was just trying to get some dirt and get something on them. But is Vince going to events and things like this? Is this, you think, going to be his new profile in WWE as it is? Because again, he's out of creative. He's not doing anything behind the scenes there. Is he basically just going to be the figurehead now that shows up with the Undertaker and goes to events and says, "Yeah, I'm with TKO"?
Yes, that's part of it. But he's, Vince worked on this deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not just, I'm sorry. Vince worked on the UFC deal with Saudi Arabia because he got the connections in Saudi Arabia. Vince helped make that deal.
Really?
So
okay.
Vince is involved. Oh yeah, Vince is involved in, working with UFC stuff and with WWE stuff. It's not like he's sitting there and not doing anything. He's working his work, but he's out of creative. And they are using the fact that he's Vince McMahon and the aura of Vince McMahon. And, there's a lot of, Vince has a great aura and people, want to do business with him because of his aura. So that's kind of like his big thing there, is that. And so, yeah, and again, going on this show helps promote next week's show. And Saudi Arabia wants that. They brought in, it's Riyadh season. They're bringing in, and it's not just boxing and just MMA and just wrestling. They're going to bring in all kinds of entertainment from all over the world, and that's how they are changing their image from this country that killed a reporter to this country that everyone wants to do business with. And I mean, like, Ari Emanuel. Ari said that he would never do business with him, and here he is. He's all over doing business with them. And Vince was one of the first big deals that they made. And now, it's like every, they can take over MMA, they can take over golf, they're going to be major figures in the sports world. Are they going to start bidding for, I don't want to say an NFL franchise, but NFL games in there? And they probably will, and Formula One's there. And, it's just what they're doing.
Follow the dollars. All right. Well, last thing here to talk about with Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer and WrestlingObserver.com. We got to talk about a little bit of what's on TV. And, of course, the big match going in for WWE is LA Knight and Roman Reigns. I thought LA Knight looked like $1 million after dropping down Reigns and SmackDown with the blunt force trauma. I mean, you can tell he's no stranger to the gym before, but, man, he just looked like stacked and ready to go. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say, and this is pure speculation here, what is the possibility of an LA Knight victory at Crown Jewel?
I wouldn't expect it, but if they think it's the right thing, I mean, everything long term is building for Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. You could also do a thing where LA Knight wins it here and loses at the Rumble, but you've broken the streak. And you're broken that number that they're really pushing. I mean, I like I said, I don't expect it. Could they do it? Of course they could do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought they should have done it with Sami Zayn, but they didn't do it. I thought they should have done it with Cody Rhodes, but they didn't do it. And the one thing I'll say is that if they don't do it with LA Knight and they went with Jay Uso, I didn't expect it at all, and it wasn't, and people still complained. And with LA Knight, if they complain, go, this is it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, look, every one of these things, it's like, what happened to business? Stayed strong. So if LA Knight wins, will business collapse? No. So and they're fine either way. I mean, if
LA Knight loses, does he survive? Is he okay still? If he loses clean?
As long as they book him strong, he'll be fine. Okay. I don't think he's going to lose clean. Nobody does with Roman Reigns. I think it's going to be all of the interference and everything like that, and they'll do that. Just like with everyone. But look, I mean, was Sami Zayn hurt? Yes. Was Cody Rhodes hurt? I'd say probably not. And they went right to Lesnar and everything. I think Cody Rhodes is fine. If you look at some of the other people that he worked with, I mean, he didn't beat Rollins, but he destroyed Rollins. Rollins is great now. Right. Kevin Owens, he's fine. The only one I think is really hurt was Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn would clearly. But one of the reasons Sami Zayn was hurt was the follow-up. He goes on TV and he loses all the time. Yeah, of course he's going to be hurt. Did the Reigns thing, if they had kept him strong, would he have been hurt? I mean, a little bit, yeah, I think so. But, it's not all about Sami Zayn either. But
no.
LA Knight, LA Knight can talk. He's the hot thing right now. I believe that he will be fine unless they have the mentality, which they may have, and they've had that with Kofi Kingston. It's like, yeah, we're putting him over, but we really don't see him as a big time star. And you could see that the minute they took the title off him, there's no rematch. He's right back to the tag team thing. But the thing with LA Knight is yeah, a lot of people get big reactions, the flavor of the month or whatever. That always happens in WWE. But LA Knight, he is a ratings mover, not to the extent of Roman, but he is a ratings mover, and he sells a lot of merchandise. And when they look at those numbers and see that kind of revenue, they're usually going to protect the guy. I'm not worried about him losing steam. I mean, would it help him if he won? It would help him greatly if he won. But, I'm at the position right now where when it comes to Roman Reigns that I never expect him to lose. Now, if he goes with Cody again at Mania, oh man, I think he should lose that one. But
we'll see what happens.
We'll wait until that period happens. Yeah.
We got just a couple minutes left literally here. So Dave, going to thank you as always. And we're going to wrap things up. Just quick notes on the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame nominations, which came out this year. A lot of people asking all sorts of different questions. This was an interesting question that came up. If someone gets into the Hall of Fame, do they get a plaque? Do you personally deliver a letter? Do you, what happens?
No, nothing really other than they know about it. I mean, but yeah.
No, there's no diamond rings or anything yet. That's okay.
No diamond rings, no.
But if people want to vote on that, they can as well if they sign up and be a part of it.
No. It's only people. You have to be. You have to be in the business or a reporter or a historian. It's not for No, it's not a fan.
Oh, this is okay. Yeah, never mind. That was the award. The awards are yeah.
The awards are a fan vote. This is not a fan vote.
Okay, but this is a panel of it, and again, it's not just you, right?
Oh God, it's like hundreds of people. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the question I meant to ask is because I know people.
I mean, I have one vote out of 300, or 200 or whatever the number of people that are going to vote this year. So it's I mean, I definitely vote in this one. But a lot of people vote, and I only got one vote. And I mean, I have people every year. I talked about people who I think should be in, and most of the time they don't get in. Some of the time they do. So and I've got a list of about 6-7 people that I voted for every year that I'm hoping get in this year because they deserve it, and we'll see. This year I think some of them will. But
so to borrow a line, then this isn't, and this is a popular perception I hear, but I know through the years of talking about it, this isn't quote Uncle Dave's favorites getting into the Hall of Fame. This is.
I have very little. I have whatever it be 0.003% influence on it.
There you go.
I mean, I talk about it, but I haven't talked about it that much. I mean, like just this week, John Pollock and I mean, the guys on Voices of Wrestling talk about it.
Yeah.
All the, everyone does, and that's great. And it's wonderful that they do. And John, like I said, John Pollock, Brandon Thurston, Alan Cunahan, I just listened to their podcast that they did, and it was
it was great. I listened to it on the drive. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And I'm going to do one. The next couple of weeks, we're going to get some guys in, and we're going to go through and our thoughts. And so, yeah, it's a great topic for discussion. And, but yeah, it's got nothing to do with me, I mean, and I mean, the thing, it's going to be interesting because I have often voted, I mean, people knew who I voted for. I've often voted for people that,
There you go.
I mean, it's if you cross the line to me, there's some interesting picks this year though, but there's, again, like Rocco and Perez, I mean, Bobby Davis, those guys need to be in, and hopefully they'll get in. They were close last year.
It'll be great. Well, Dave, we are officially out of time. Thanks, buddy. Take care.
Okay, you take care too.
McGuire on Wrestling.
This past Friday, I was in Calgary, Alberta, where it was Dungeon Wrestling Live. This is the resurgence of what was Stampede Wrestling, now with a bit of a different name, but definitely with the right hearts behind the helm. You've got Dallas Hart, son of Bret the Hitman Hart, who's doing the promoting. Bret is there with booking and matchmaking. There's some other great forces behind the scenes, and the best part is this all takes place in the legendary Victoria Pavilion. Now, I was wearing a few different hats at the show. One of them was commentator, the other was ring announcer, and then doing some stuff behind the scenes. But one of the biggest things that happened for me was the surprise appearance of Harry Bulldog Smith. I knew what was going on the whole show, and then I walked backstage, and there's Harry. Now, like everybody else, I'd heard the comments, I'd seen the posts talking about this life and death struggle. And I said, first of all, as a friend, man, how you doing? We talked about it a bit, and I said, look, there's a lot of people that would love to hear from you exactly what happened. I don't want to leave your injury, your situation, you having to drop out of a bunch of book dates, including a big run with MLW, of course, us in Dungeon Wrestling, and a bunch more. Would you want to come on and tell the story? He said, of course. So here is an exclusive update from the man himself, Harry Bulldog Smith.
McGuire on Wrestling.
Well, this was a very happy surprise. Harry Smith, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing a lot better, and glad to be back here in Calgary in front of the audience. And too bad I wasn't able to perform yet, but luckily my health is going to be all right, it looks like, and good to be here and seeing everybody.
So for those that haven't seen the posts or know exactly what's going on, we got word that you weren't going to be able to show up at MLW. And then here in Calgary, we got word that you weren't going to be here. And all we'd heard is that something went really bad with your guts.
Yeah, you could say the very least something went really bad with my guts. Well, basically, I had some symptoms that were extremely painful right around Canadian Thanksgiving time. And, I was having dinner there, and I'm usually the type that, Thanksgiving dinner, I'm having at least a couple plates full of everything. Mm-hmm. And I was, extremely constipated and not feeling good. And I was barely able to finish off a plate. So then the next day I was just kind of putting it off onto maybe it's something I ate wasn't that good and everyone else seemed fine. And the pain and swelling in my stomach started to really increase, and it was getting really painful.
Was it like a sharp pain, or was
no?
it
was like a swelling.
Okay.
Like picture your stomach here, like just swelling, but the rest of your stomach's flat.
So you're bubbling out, basically. Bubbling
out, yeah, okay. right above, right the lower hip area, and it's just like an extreme pain, like as if someone just is nonstop booting you in the guts, or shooting you in the guts with a shotgun. I can't say what that feels like, but that's what I could compare it to. So then, I went to the walk-in clinic, and the doctor there tests my urine, and she says that there's high white blood cell count, and there's blood in the urine too. And I couldn't see it but they examine it differently.
So what does the high white cell count mean?
For the body's fighting an infection of some sort. So she chalked it off to being urinary tract infection, and it'll be better in a few days, and take antibiotics. And it's painful, but...
Where were you when this was happening?
In Canada, thankfully. Okay, and, so I said, all right. And she goes, but if it does get worse, go to emergency. And she gave me some papers to go get an x-ray to see if there's a kidney infection.
Right.
And I went to the x-ray place, and they said, well, it's like a 2-hour wait. And I said, I can't wait 2 hours. This is... the pain's just, gradually, getting worse. Well, and I'm thinking in my head,
looking like your stomach's going to explode.
Yeah, and they said, we'll come back in 2 hours. So I went home. I just laid on my bed because I had to sprawl out, stretch, because just being crunched up, it's just that pain. And I said, I do want to see if I have a kidney infection, but I honestly can't drive myself back. It's this painful. Mm-hmm. So right before that, I bought a bunch of X-Lax, funny enough. And I tried that, but because things aren't working here, it's just kind of staying there and making the pain worse. But
you
can't
eat, you can't poop, nothing's working.
It's supposed, but you take a good couple or a few X-Lax, it's supposed to
get it out.
And nothing did. And by the next day, the pain went from that to I'd say a 12 out of 10.
Jeez.
So I went to emergency, and about 6 hours there, and I finally asked the nurse. I said, I understand that there's people in here, you're seeing the sickest patients first, but although I'm just sitting in pain and I don't look like there's something wrong, I said, I'm a professional athlete and I've never experienced this pain in my life.
Wow.
And when Brock Lesnar said that his diverticulitis felt like it nearly killed him, I can attest, him saying that's true. And, so I just told the nurse, I said, listen, I need to lay down. This pain is this bad, and I'm not trying to just rush myself through here, but I said there's something really bad, and I have to lay down. I can't sit anymore. This. She goes, okay, and so she's laid me down, and then doctor came and talked to me, and he told me not to eat or drink anything going forward, which I said, well, I don't want to anyway because I'm so backed up, and he said, well, we'll do an ultrasound, and I think you have appendicitis. So we did an ultrasound, and then after that was done, I'm waiting, and I'm seen right away again. So I'm going, okay, well, they found something. So lay down, and they said, well, you can't eat or drink anymore going forward, but they said we have to do emergency surgery like in a couple hours because from what we can see, your appendix is right about to burst. And I said, oh, well, that's great. And all of a sudden, things just started moving around, like moving on quick.
Yeah, all of a sudden, you're not the guy sitting in the waiting room anymore. It's
and appendicitis, the pain is on the right side, but I had pain on the left side too. Like it would kind of alter, and then it was like just like pain all over, but specifically in two spots.
So is that the diverticulitis working at the same time as the appendicitis?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they to see if you have diverticulitis, they have to do what's called a CT scan.
Right.
And they go, well, we can't get you in for that, but we have to take care of this first because, well, we can get you in for a CT scan, but it's going to be like a few hours, and in a few hours we're going to be doing surgery.
Hey, while we're in there, we can do an exploratory.
Yeah, so they cut me open, and then they found that I have something called diverticulosis.
Okay.
Which is a little bit different than diverticulitis. It's the same thing, but when they opened me up, they saw that my colon was very infected and swollen. And basically what diverticulosis is where they cut, like Brock Lesnar had like a foot of his colon cut.
Yeah.
And I think his came back again. Or he happened like mine, and then it was diverticulosis, which I'm praying doesn't happen. But so where they cut a foot of his colon, whereas mine they just trim like an inch off. And they trim the infected area because it's not as bad as cutting a foot off your colon.
Right.
When you think a foot, like, but when you expand your colon out, it's like, and stretch it, it's,
it's like
good,
12 feet or
12
something.
feet or something.
Yeah.
So then they came in and then they vacuumed a bunch of the infection out. And then they do like what's like a trimming, like a haircut.
Sorry, when basically, you say vacuum, I just picture them bringing in the shop vacuum.
Yeah.
But.
And then on severe antibiotics after that because the colon's infected. And basically what happens is there's the issue with the colon, but it's caused by the appendix. And what they said to me was, I'm just a rare case, but some people have a longer colon than others. And mine was pushing against my appendix. So, and when it got infected, it just was pushing more into it. So whatever's blocking the appendix there is causing, it was both. So then they cut and trimmed. So I have 3 different incisions on my stomach now.
So how big are they? Like, are they big? I don't need to.
Here's one that came off. So that was
okay.
One,
So we got a couple inches there.
That's about a couple inches, and then I have one there, and then one up. And I have a weird like belly button. So it's like now it's like a divot in here. Oh. So
an accessory belly button.
Kind of my any belly button's hidden with the scar.
Yeah.
So then, but yeah, I mean, and then I couldn't. I didn't have a bowel movement for 10 days.
Well,
which was not fun.
I was watching your mom make some posts too.
Yeah.
And she was talking about what kind of pain you were in and how you were basically out of it for the first few days. So when did you finally come to realize, okay, it's done now, it's been fixed? I mean, and what were you feeling at that moment?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, when I woke up, because I was in so much pain, like the night before, I barely slept.
Right.
And when you're just stretched out and when you're just rolling over to get out of bed, that kind of pain is just an extreme. Like anybody that's dealt with what I have had, they can attest what that twisting is like. And so they told me they were giving me the anesthetic, and I just closed my eyes and I said, well, like I'm so tired anyway, like I'm ready to go to sleep. So it wasn't, I don't really like that feeling of that anesthetics, like when you get put out for surgeries.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I'm just closing my eyes and I'm just going to go off because I'm literally that exhausted and tired because I'm not sleeping because of this thing. So when I woke up, it was painful. Like it took, and like just, it took me a good few days to start eating again. Like it was just, and when your stomach has that kind of shock to it, it's not craving food. It's just and there's all this backup here that I'm trying to get out, so the system can start to
just go back to work.
Yeah, and I mean, like I'm telling you, man, I've never experienced pain like that in my life. Never.
I'm glad to see you're kicking out of it, to use the old terminology here. But I mean, let's get down to business here. So obviously, working out's not a big thing right now, I'm presuming.
It is not. Unfortunately, like even if I wanted to work out or had that desire to, it's not there because. First off, this pain was just excruciating, and now that my body's, it's a very slow and long process, but it's a shock to your system. So when you're not when you're not able to eat, you're not you basically need, your body needs protein so it can start to function, and needs carbohydrates for energy, and needs fats and this and that. So, but when you're not, when you're a big athlete like myself and you're not eating, you're not really, and you're on antibiotics, and I was on some painkillers for the first stretch of it, which I don't really even like to take, but honestly it hurt that bad I had to.
Yeah.
And you don't really have that energy to get up and do stuff, and it's not been a time in my life where I'm like, wow, I'm going to sit home and start to learn a new language while I'm it's been good week or so of laying on the bed and not being able to really function. And it's been bad.
When you showed up here tonight, man, I was like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. No, I'm all right to this actually tonight has been good for me to get out moving again and just it's just slow. Anybody that's recovering from something, you have to push yourself to get better, but you also can't push it too hard. But just trying to stay busy, because I was getting into a bad habit of staying up super late at night and then going to sleep, and then you wake up and it's 2 p.m, but when your body goes onto that kind of time clock. But the antibiotics that I'm on, because I'm on 2 different ones, one to clear up the diverticulosis, to keep it cleared, and the other for the appendix removal. So there's one that I have to eat with, but I'm not hungry, and the other one you have to eat with, but you can't have dairy with. So it's just I have to eat something for it to be absorbed too, and it's just not been there. But I've been slowly it's been 1 meal a day, or in total, let's just say. Now we're up to 2 meals a day. But it's just a slow build back to, I
like to make the joke before, and I've said it before to you, you always like to do things big.
Yeah. But luckily everything's good. Tomorrow is my last day of antibiotics.
Cool.
And they said as long as that goes, you finish your 2 or 3 weeks of that, there's no infection, we're good. That's a big thing. Because the incision, if that gets infected, oh boy.
Well, you can go septic, it can go terrible.
And then also, the fact that, if I lift something heavy and I'm trying to go back to the gym, because I don't even have the energy to. Because when you're not eating, you're not feeling the body with that, and you're in extreme pain, and you're not in that mode. When I broke my hand years ago, it's okay, well, I'm young and it's just a handbrake. I got a cast on, but I'm still going to the gym, working out, and doing some machine stuff with my. But this is been different, so it's not. It's been the worst thing that's happened to me, honestly. I'm not gonna lie, it's sucked. And anybody that's dealt with this kind of stuff, when your appendix is bursting, that pain, whew, I don't wish that on anybody. But the good news is, it looks like I'll be all right, and I got to get a colonoscopy in about a month or two to make sure everything's good, and just hopefully it doesn't come back, because Brock Lesnar's came back and he had to get the diverticulosis, which was the full foot of his colon removed, and I can't attribute this to anything. People said that Brock Lesnar's case, it's because he was eating wild animals that he's been shooting in the wild, and my Aunt Allison had the same thing. A lot of people say it's genetic, and my Aunt Allison's a healthy librarian, and believe me, she's not eating wild meat that she's hunting. She's eating stuff from Safeway. But it just, they can't attribute it to, certain kind of diet. it happens. It could be hereditary. Like my Aunt Allison had the exact same thing, and hers was okay after a while. So just knock on wood and hope.
Well, buddy, I got to tell you again. When I first saw the headline, and then it was scary. It was really scary. So.
And initially when I was told a urinary tract infection, I'm like, oh,
no.
Well, it's going to be a few days, but a few days I recovered. A couple days after that, I'm going to go to MLW. Then it was like the next day, it was like way worse, and I told them, I got in touch with them then, and I said, hey, listen, there's something wrong. And actually, funny enough, Court Bauer, the owner of MLW, he had diverticulosis, like exactly like mine, and he knows exactly.
So that's one boss. It's like, you're fine.
He's been a great boss because we've been chatting back and forth. And so I was week one going, oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
So he's been great. He's been checking in on me, and he has told me that I can come back to the ring when I'm ready, and he's like, believe me, I've literally been there. I know exactly what it's like. So just, so he's been a good help. He's been checking in on me every few days and stuff. So
okay, last thing, Harry, before we wrap this up here tonight, you came into the ring here, Dungeon Wrestling. We have another show coming up in Calgary here at the Victoria Pavilion on December the 16th. You had alluded to possibly being there and returning. Now, I don't want to kill the gimmick here, but realistically, I mean, that's just a month and a half away. What is the prognosis here? Because, I mean, they even if it was just a couple inches, they still took out a part of your colon, man. Like honestly, what's the best case scenario for you coming up then, and maybe with any other wrestling or training for you?
Well, yeah, hopefully, I'm back in the gym slowly the next week or so, and they gave me a good 4 week prognosis that even though it was the appendix being removed, which is a 2 to 4 week, it's more like a month, and when you get the diverticulosis, it's a good month of recovery. So we're going on week 3 of it now, so I should be good. It's just going to be a slow recovery, and I'll be good by December 16th as long as we're going and I'm training and feeling good. I just gotta take it day by day, and see where we go. But as far as I know, I'll be good by then. It's just going to be a rough time getting back into the gym and stuff. It's a shock I've never had. So
well, hey, buddy, again, if there's anybody that can do it, it's Harry Smith. So it's great to see you, brother.
Yeah, good to see you too, and thank you. And I'll see you December 16th, and I'm ready to come back, and as long as everything's good.
McGuire on Wrestling.
Welcome back to the show, and as we continue, this time, the three of us in the same room. Mike McGuire here with Mitch Hosius and with Dimitri Karolis, the hosts of the alternate commentary table. Fellas,
thanks for having us.
Shot.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Oh, no, we're excited. We got a little home and away happening here.
I like that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is exciting.
Discussion time with the hosts here now of the alternate commentary table. Fellas, the Facebook page, Team MOW McGuire on Wrestling, people submitting great stuff all the time. I love that we can have this forum where you guys can banter back and forth with listeners. We get to find out what's on people's minds here. It's been... We're at 14 episodes now with ACT. How are you guys feeling about it?
You know what? Love it. Absolutely love it. And I love it because we just come in, we have fun. But, every week we get another rep under our belt, right? Yeah. You find your style. And we knew that from our other shows and things. So but the feedback's also been really positive. It is nice to hear, especially with that Facebook page. We'll say something or we'll talk about something, and then you see the feedback and you're like, oh, that's cool. It's engaging enough for a talking point.
I remember when texting and that first started, I mean, you'd always have the phones and radio, but then when texting and Facebook and social media, it's like, oh God, people are listening. I did say that.
I'll say, honestly, it's the most fun we have on Saturday. We wake up early to do our sports show. Then we have a Greek radio station that we do. But when we do the ACT, we look across each other and we are just smiling because it's fun. It's exciting. That's what wrestling is. It's like going back to your childhood in our eyes. I think that's why we become like boys again. We just have some fun and joke around, and we try to be serious, but we're also at the expense of everyone. We're just having a good time.
Mitch, I believe you wake up early.
Dimitri, on the other hand,
Exactly.
You know, again, it's a suggested time. I don't remember a firm start.
So for those wondering, yesterday we met and did the ACT. If you haven't listened to it yet, go to yesterday's post, McGuireShow.podbean.com, and I got to sit in with the guys here. We'll have to talk about this whole daddy thing another time, but
it's your new moniker.
There was a little bit of a time confusion apparently in Dimitri's world. I will say that the more you're working with the hearts, you're getting good at practicing what we like to call heart time, which in the wrestling world has been notorious for. Yeah, I'll be there in an hour. See you in 3.
Yeah.
So
that's why we argue that they're Greek.
That's right. Yeah. That's what we've been saying for years.
It comes from a place of experience.
So our history too, if you don't know, these are my co-commentators when we do Dungeon Wrestling. We just had a show 2 nights ago, Friday night, in Calgary, and now here we are. I wanted to bring you guys on for the discussion segment because it's fine for me to sit here and give my thoughts, but why not bring more voices in? And that's why you're always invited to be a part of the show. McGuireShow@yahoo.com. If you don't want your question out there publicly on the Facebook page, you can send it to me directly. I'm not going to spam you. You're not going to get anything like that. Just want to, give you an alternate form. But if you want to also find us on Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff, you now know how to do that as well. But today, guys, I wanted to go through some of the discussion that's coming from our board here. And one of the first ones, and I normally don't like getting into this sort of stuff here, and I don't know how versed you are in them, but Jake from Chicago wanted to know what are some of your favorite lies from Hulk Hogan's life? Because he's known, I don't know if you guys know this as well, but he's known for kind of not remembering facts properly or maybe taking credit for things. Like he said that he was once up for a bass player in Metallica.
Oh, I did see that on the Joe Rogan podcast. Yeah. I saw that.
Didn't he do something with was it a kid with cancer?
Oh, the Wembley thing.
Right? That's like his biggest blunder, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he mess with like some fan? Yeah, there was something I remember.
So he said, according to the story, he had this album that he recorded while he's in WCW. It's Hulk Hogan and the Hulkamaniacs or something, and it's I Want to Be a Hulkamaniac. Hulk Hogan and the Wrestling Boot Band was what it was. Okay. And there was a song called Hulkster in Heaven. And he was talking about how in this song, it's terrible. You know what? We might throw a clip in here. Anyway, the lyric is, when you watch me wrestle in Wembley. Like he's trying to make the syllables match with. Okay.
That's just creative, Mike.
Sentiment of the song, that rhyme doesn't exactly work, right? Okay. Sentiment aside, not the best. But the thing is, like he was telling this story about how he got this kid tickets to Wembley Stadium. He wasn't in WWF then. He wasn't there. He wasn't on the show.
There we go. It's all coming back now.
That's it.
Because that was Brett and Davey Boy in the main event, and the world title match was Savage and Flair, right? So I mean, it never happened. And then he said like there was a big event with him and Mike Tyson or something, and Michael Jordan was there, and some of these things could have happened. Right? Like there's a lot of stories, but this specific one, he tells this story about this kid with cancer, and it's been debunked to say the least. So
I think a good drinking game would be if you heard Hulk Hogan, like to catch him in his lie when he says, "I don't remember."
Yeah.
He'll start with that. It's like, yeah, okay, gotcha. You don't remember the time when you and Bret Hart organized WrestleMania at Caesar's Palace. Okay, gotcha. Sure.
I think his biggest lie might have been the vitamins thing. Did you really take vitamins? Really? Come on, you're a grown-ass man. And what vitamins were you taking?
Everything has vitamins in it. Okay?
Sure.
It's all sports science, Mitch.
Sure.
The distribution may be a little different, that's all. Okay, so that's one thing that came up here. We talked about this a bit yesterday on the ACT, but seeing Sting and Ric Flair in the ring together again. Feelings around the table here, Mitch?
I'll say this. I think bravo to Sting. First off, number one, looking great at 64. I keep saying it. He looks like he can still go. He could go another couple of years. I don't like the Ric Flair. I like Ric Flair coming down and saying goodbye. I think that was kind of a cool gesture. I mean, we're all suckers for the nostalgia. I'm just worried that he's not going to leave his side. He's like, I'm coming with, right? I'm coming.
I'll be completely honest. I thought when he said that, I was wondering if he was going into business for himself on that, because Flair's been known to do that in the past. So, as we'll find out in the next few weeks here what comes next to that. But either way, Ric Flair, I mean, they made him an entrance video. He's got all the stuff. So why wouldn't you use him if you got him?
They make entrance music and videos for everyone on their debut. Absolutely. Even when it doesn't make sense. I will say, I will echo your comments as well, Mitch. I like the road show to retirement. I think it's really cool. And every week to week, if there would be a cool surprise, if they hitch Flair to that wagon, and that's what we're getting week to week, it's not going to be good. It's going to take away from it. He doesn't have the juice. He doesn't have the stamina for it. He doesn't have the vigor, and it'll take away from what they're trying to do.
Wasn't it really just stealing Sting's spotlight a bit if he's there that prominently for the next few weeks, or months?
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, why do you need to be there? Yeah, you guys had some epic battles, and that was all good, but you don't need to walk with him in this, on your way to retirement. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah, like bring a new guy every week, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
a new gift.
Hey,
we talked about this the other day as well. You're talking like, what a terrible gift. That's not a good gift.
The human parceling of Ric Flair. Here's your present.
That's like me like giving you guys Christmas cards made by my kids. Merry Christmas. Oh, thanks, but
that's not a bad idea.
Thanks.
Actually. What a way around it.
Yeah,
you know what? Thank you for that. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, but don't go to Vistaprint. Like, just get loose leaf.
This is another question here that's a little more, a little deeper into the weeds here for a second. Okay. But there was a time last week, not this past week, but the week before, when Sting made his retirement announcement and he mentioned Hulk Hogan, all the fans booed. They have cited in the past that Hulk Hogan, Tony Khan even went as far as to say, like, Hulk Hogan will never be invited on this show. And it had to do a lot with, of course, past actions of Hogan. Ric Flair is a guy who has also had a very dicey past. Is this a contradiction by being accepting of Ric Flair for doing things that have been proven or alleged to be not so great, but but banning Hogan for similar to same reasons? And I'm not saying, trust me, I know there's apples and oranges in this thing because there are two different things, but at the same time, treating people like people is what it comes down to here.
Right.
So is there a little bit of contradiction for even having Ric Flair in AEW?
No, I think it's kind of like anything else. Like, Dimitri and I have been buddies for all our lives, and now you're like our new best friend, Daddy. But the point is that, there's some people in this world, Mike, let's call it what it is. You like them, you don't like them. Me, LA Knight. Don't know why. Just don't like him. But everyone seems to like him. I think it's Tony Khan says, hey, I like the Flair. Don't like you, Hogan. As I listened, going back, I heard him on a podcast. Hogan's still articulate. I'll give the guy a lot of cred. Like, he still speaks really nicely. Yeah. Apparently it's all lies. But the point of the matter is that, I can see how he could rub the wrong way for some people. It's just a personality thing, right? So I say, I am worried about the Ric Flair thing because you're right. Like, he's that guy, he could take it to that next level where you're like, oh my God, he's that guy that won't leave the party. It's like, I invited him and now he's sticking around. He won't leave.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And eats your chips at the end of the night.
I know. Yeah. I know that guy.
Over here. I do think it's a bit of a contradiction in this case, only because the eye on the prize is Tony Khan is saying, hey, I'm bringing a gift out to you. Here's someone that has been around your entire career, gave you your start, iconic matches, and they referenced all of it. Well, Hogan's in that camp as well. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, you looked at Sting, he defended. Like, when they heard the boos, he was like, no, hold on, you guys. Like, at the same time. So if it would mean something significant for Sting in this going away party to bring out a Hogan, why not? And honestly, Tony Khan, I get what you're saying, but you're also competing with the big boy on the block. So anything helps.
Fair enough. Okay, let's shift gears here now, fellas. Something I want to get your opinions on from both of you, because I know you don't watch a lot, and I mean, how can you watch everything? I get it, but Impact Wrestling, making the name change, going back to TNA, this is a step for nostalgia, obviously, for nostalgia reasons. But when you guys were watching wrestling back then, were you watching a lot of TNA or were you not watching it at all?
I'll tell you this right now. I love that they're going back to TNA, and I'll tell you why. I've been watching a little bit of Impact, and I get confused. I'm watching Impact, and I'm like, was this TNA? Now it's TNA again. Now I'm happy. Now I know where I'm watching. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Did I watch a lot of it? I'm going to tell you something. I've watched more clips now via the Reels or Instagram or YouTube now than I did growing up. And I actually kind of mad at myself. I think I missed out on a good promotion.
There were some great things in TNA's history, and the Reels component of social media has been great at doing what wrestling fans love to do the most. And that's compartmentalize memories of the good and completely ignore the bad.
Agreed.
So, I see the Impact Wrestling account. That's what actually makes me nostalgic for it, too, is there were some great angles. There was also some dreck in there, but I mean, look back at WWE. There's gimmicks again. We talked about it when we did ACT yesterday, talking about the fact that there are a lot of things we've forgotten that were horrible in wrestling. And we have to go to YouTube, and it's like, oh, yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah, that
was a thing. Shelton Benjamin's mama, that was a thing.
That's right. or the whole Mae Young scenario, all of it.
And
like
all
of it.
The infamous hand. Let's just leave it at that.
Sting and RoboCop. Okay.
Oh, yeah. What?
And the man who will shock the world, the Shockmaster.
You call it horrible. I call it entertainment. I don't know about you.
Hey, Fred Ottman has made money off that thing since, because they made a Shockmaster limited edition figure, and it comes in the package upside down, tripping over the wall. So
that's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Getting a piece of that wood is like having a piece of the wood of the Ark of the Covenant. Like, you do not let that go.
Never.
So
I don't know about that much, but okay. One contains the secrets of the universe, the other a piece of thing that the guy that used to be tugboat tripped over. Okay, fair enough.
Give me that tugboat thing. That looks cool. So I love the name change. Mm-hmm. I absolutely do. TNA is what I think everyone remembers it as. And it's not as confusing, to your point, as well. Right. Yeah. And there were some bright spots in TNA. Like, one of the greatest promos of all time was Jay Lethal and Ric Flair. It can't be denied. The woo off. I mean, yes. I'm probably attributing to 1,000 clicks on whoever puts that up on YouTube. But TNA, you know what I remember about TNA is that I remember it being legitimate competition at one point. We can nitpick on the 6-sided ring. We can, okay, fine. But here's what happened. You had the main event Mafia, which I thought was a fantastic gimmick of veterans coming in. Kurt Angle. This is where we really got to see Christian Cage break out of his own to be a superstar. This is where we got to see Samoa Joe, AJ Styles.
Team Canada.
Yeah, Team Canada, Lance Storm. I mean, all of these things, yeah, like, beer money, like these guys were great, right? So there was a lot of bright spots, and it came at TNA, and then they went through this identity crisis of trying to find themselves. They
also went through a lot of business crisis too.
For sure.
There was a time, if you guys remember, where TNA wasn't clearing checks. Talent weren't getting paid, and checks were literally bouncing at one point.
I mean, that's kind of easy to see though, too, right, Mike? Like, you would look at the crowd. It was never a capacity. Like, NXT, I think, still has more crowd than I've ever seen on TNA. You know what I mean?
Maybe more than the Universal Studio setup, yeah.
Yeah.
But
it just, that's all. It's not super surprising. This wrestling gig is a real thing. After watching Dungeon Wrestling and how you guys put on that show yesterday, there's a lot of going on around here, man. It's a lot of things. It's business.
Okay, one more thing to talk about here with you guys. WWE announcing the overly creatively titled Bash in Berlin, which is going to be coming up next August. Mm-hmm. And it's the first time WWE doing a premium live event or a pay-per-view in Germany. Are you interested in watching this one? Because for me personally, I've always enjoyed watching the international shows. I like to see what fans around the world think of WWE, of AEW, of pro wrestling. I went to a show in Vegas once, and I've been to other shows in the U.S. since. I was at the Hell in a Cell where Cody had his blown pec and everything. But it's amazing. When you go to a wrestling show in Canada, fans are a lot more cynical, I find. We're a lot more insy. We're a lot more ha-ha sarcastic. If you go to a show in the States, and I'm talking 10, 12 years ago now, like, they were still all in. They were all in on stuff. And kids around me, like, nobody's making little jabs or anything. Now we go to the UK with AEW and All In. We saw how crazy that got. We've seen the UK fans at WrestleMania for the years, but we've never seen a German contingency represented on international television before. Mitch, are you excited to see what the show looks like or not?
Absolutely, and you took the words out of my mouth. The UK showed everybody They love wrestling. I think we sometimes forget, like, oh, we're here in North America. We're on our own little bubble. You hear about New Japan Wrestling, okay, the Asian market's over here. We tend to forget about Europe, and Europe's actually a big play. I'm actually really excited. And now that they're doing the Crown Jewel over in Saudi Arabia, man, there's definitely a market. I am curious to see. I'm like you. I'm going to be watching the crowd maybe more than some of the matches just to see what's going on.
To your point about Crown Jewel, I remember when the first one happened and how weird it was. And everybody was already negative because the controversy and the incidents have been happening between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. And there's still issues there. But we're not here to talk politics. We're here to talk about wrestling. Just the culture was so different. Remember, they had the tables around ringside with the couches, like the loungers, almost like a bunch of mafiosos, sitting around ringside. You could tell there was a class system there. And a lot of fans everywhere else were kind of turned off by that. So the next show, they made it open seating. They made it an arena-style show again. And all of a sudden, it was fans in wrestling T-shirts and people having a good time. Still not a lot of women in the crowd, but it was one of those things where, okay, if nothing else, at least it looks a little more like what we're used to. I'm not saying they should have to assimilate to please us, but it was interesting to see that cultural perspective. When WWE goes to Japan, when they go anywhere, it's always a different style of feedback. And Dimitri, I mean, I'd be honest, I don't know a lot about German culture to begin with here, but I do know that it's going to be something different. I mean, Bret, if anybody, Bret Hart can tell you stories about being the most loved guy in Germany ever. He'd go there and, it was like Michael Jackson reactions, like that sort of super Taylor Swift reactions today, this mega superstar showing up.
It's incredible. We got to keep in mind, wrestling is global, and it always has been global. And we've gotten these snippets over the years. You talk Bret Hart, Davey Boy Smith, 92, Wembley Stadium. You're like, all right, SummerSlam, this is fantastic. You go over, we just had AEW, as you say, Saudi Arabia. They got to try it out. I don't know if I'm a fan of oversaturating the mega pay-per-view market for WWE. We talk like you have the big four. Now you've added Crown Jewel. Is this going to be a yearly thing? Is it going to be as big? Because then I think it takes away sometimes from storyline. Got to kind of have those filler pay-per-views.
Right.
But try it out. The thing that I'm always just concerned of because predominantly we're in the North American market, or wrestling is, the time zone. You just have to make sure that you're doing it at a good, reasonable time where the viewership is still there. Because yes, for the German fan, it's amazing.
Yeah, but
get it. But we want to see it too.
Yeah, but you can. Everything's on demand. It's all on the network. Yeah. As soon as it's done, it's posted now. Especially here in Canada with the setup. Like literally as soon as it's off the air, it's right there. There used to be a little bit of lag time with the old network setup, but now you can just watch it anytime. So, I mean, yeah, you want to stay off Twitter and social media and everything.
Well, that's what I mean. You can watch it anytime, but you still want it live, right?
Yeah.
And it's worse now, too, because things are coming out faster than you can read about.
I just want one thing. If you're going to go to Germany, bring the signs back. Can we just get some signs back? I want to see signs. I love, in German, I love LA Knight. I love whoever. I want the signs back. I miss the signs. Tell me that you don't look into the crowd and you kind of miss a little bit seeing a flag or seeing a sign or whatever the case may be. I'm a sucker for it, man.
Here's where I stand with the signs. I think they look fantastic on TV. They are the worst thing ever when you go to a show.
Really?
Dude, I'm at WrestleMania 29. Yeah. Undertaker against CM Punk, right? They've got the big Brooklyn Bridge set, right? The whole thing is on fire. Literally, they've put torches everywhere on this thing. I'm got my camera out. I'm ready to take this beautiful shot. And there's this guy, and realize we've got good seats. We're on the floor. We're on TV the whole show. You can see us. This giant set, and this guy right next to me, and one row ahead has a sign that is poorly written. That's about the size of the piece of paper in front of you.
Oh, really?
So 8.5 by 11.
Okay.
That says Undertaker. And all I can see in my photo of this giant, beautifully lit up bridge is his stupid hand holding up this stupid sign.
I can explain. I was there. That's me. Hold on. I can explain.
It was a gift from Tony Khan.
Exactly. It was a gift.
I told you. Guy's inventive. It might have been Tony Khan.
You know what, though? I mean, it's like, get your sign on TV, get it on once, and then screen cap it when you get home, and keep it down for the rest of the damn night, would you?
Yeah, you're right. You know what? Yeah, in hindsight, now that you're saying it, I can see what you mean. But I mean, I've been to many. I went to the In Your House here in Calgary. I went back in the day when it was during the Stampede. That was fun. However, I have to admit, I mean, the majority of the matches I watch are all on TV. And so, you know what? Too bad. I wanted the sign.
Okay, it's settled. No signs on the floor. Signs only on elevated seating. That way,
That's there you go. You can't see down.
Stand up. Stand up.
You know what? You like the wrestler, buy the T-shirt.
There you go.
That's the answer.
There you go.
Okay.
You like these shows, buy the T-shirts.
That's funny.
McGuireShow.com is where you can get those. Cheap plug. Fellas, thank you for being here for the discussion part of the show. And Mitch, those are some fine doodles you got going on over there. What is that? That looks like
well, I'm designing our new shirt called Daddy, D-A-D-I. It's for you'll find out soon.
No. I was talking about the wheat puff thing.
go back to the daddy.
The daddy.
Yeah.
Well, let's call it what it is.
Go.
The boss is here. This is what's it.
Show's wrapping up.
If Rhea and Dom Dom were the man.
Yeah, hold on, Mike. We'll get there. Relax for a second.
We have our own version. We got the daddy.
I'm thinking we do the purple as well.
Look for the new show replacing the alternate commentary table next week.
Ryan, Joe, help us! No, buddy, Mike, we can't thank you enough. Thanks for having us on your show. It's been a wonderful weekend. Dungeon wrestling, alternate commentary table, McGuire on wrestling.
You guys are a blast, and again, I'm so happy you guys are here. More stuff still in the works. The thing is, guys, behind the scenes, we've got a couple people that kind of help feed through some things here, but I mean, I've been busy. I've been real busy with the job at the radio station, being on the road. But again, this is why I never want to charge for this thing directly, because we're doing this out of passion. We do it for love of wrestling. Anybody that does charge for it, that doesn't have, like I said, when The Undertaker became a Patreon podcaster, that sets the bar now. Okay, if you're not The Undertaker, why are you charging $5 a week or whatever?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that's what it means to me is that, you know what, let's just keep having fun with this, work hard and the money will come, but in the meantime, just enjoy, and to use the cheap cachet phrase here, celebrate wrestling, because that's what we're doing. So
absolutely.
I just wanted to do one quick shout out, if you don't mind, Mike. We got a guy that's been with us for a long time, and he's a huge fan of you all of a sudden. South Carolina George. He's a big fan of you, big fan of the show, loves the Meltzer. I just wanted to shout him out. I just wanted to say, because the rest of the guys are all awesome. He's buying the garb, all that stuff, but shout out to biggest wrestling fan.
Awesome.
Biggest
awesome.
wrestling.
South Carolina George, you're always welcome. Is he on the page yet?
Oh, he's perusing.
All right. Well, get him on there. All right. Until next week, my friends, as always, thank you for listening, letting us do what we do. Play safe, drive safe. Abyssinia.
Try shot.
Oh, boy.
Thanks, Daddy.
Ah!